Is this better? Can you hear
Look at
me okay?
look at your beautiful studio.
I didn't blur mine. What are you hiding behind there?
Well, I'm kind of in I have my usual podcast background,
Oh, okay.
but it's a bit cluttered yes, I am hiding.
I'm just teasing you.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, I know. I'm still reeling off of like meeting you guys and so many people in Ottawa. When was that? Like 6 weeks ago? Two
Yeah,
months ago?
about that. Yeah, we go back.
Yeah.
What are we now? May, end of March?
Oh, yeah.
Was it
Yeah.
that long
Yeah.
ago? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was really awesome. For those who don't know, Shannon invited me to go to like this club. So we got this like really neat experience. Not a dance club.
we
So,
we brought a bunch of people to the Rideau Club, which is Canada's oldest private members club, and it sounds a lot fancier than it is these days. Confederation was drafted by members of the Rideau Club at the club in Ottawa, and it's moved more to social, and there's a bunch of
yeah.
kind of local entrepreneurs that are members, and it's not like joining a $300,000 a year golf club or anything like that.
No, no,
It's
but
a
it was an interesting evening to say the least. So ran into interesting people there.
Indeed. Yeah, well, we bumped into
Yeah.
Blaine Higgs at the end of the night.
Yeah, I ended up having like a meeting with him the following day, which was really, really quite something. I will give him credit what he's doing to raise awareness with what's happening in New Brunswick. I don't know if you've been following.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I like the stance he's taken. Well, he was one of the first one out of the gate to kind of address some of the issues provincial wise. And yeah, just his strong words and the actions he's taken even over what happened in New Brunswick just this last week. So I'm gonna breach on it a little bit, but so
Hmm.
do you want me to get started into
Yeah,
the
and do
presentation?
you? I think you already have privilege to share screen if you want to share your screen.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out that Stephen is still like showing as an avatar here for me, and
Can you
I'm
boot him out?
well.
No, I'm
It
kidding.
said that oh, there he is.
Boot me out.
He might have to leave and then rejoin as
Yeah.
a not a panelist.
Oh, can you
I
just remove me as panelist or no? If not,
I don't
I'll
know.
leave
oh,
and rejoin.
there we go. That's the ticket. Okay. Thanks everybody. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we
There you
are.
go. He had some really good information. I'm gonna want to get a hold of him later on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, so you're welcome to share the screen. I
Okay.
will give you the floor. And as why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, Nadine, before you launch into your presentation?
Yeah, yeah.
Share
I'm
with
gonna do a bit
viewers.
of an intro so people understand why I'm speaking to what I'm speaking and where the authority to speak on it comes from as well. And not saying that I'm authoritarian, but you'll understand a little bit. I have some background information, some background training, professional training, and I've been bringing light to a lot of things. So I'll kind of get going on that, I guess. So grew up in the East Coast, live in Saskatchewan. I worked as an RCMP officer, so I was a police officer for about 7 years. I I speak openly about this, so this is not going to be new information. I was a victim of sexual abuse as a child, and my offender got arrested, convicted, and went to jail. And that kind of shaped a little bit some of my career direction. I became a police officer for the specific purpose of wanting to help victims of childhood sexual abuse. And because of that, I took specific training to go in that direction. I wanted to work in the ICE unit, which is the Internet Child Exploitation Unit. In the RCMP, if you want to work with victims of childhood sexual abuse, that's basically the only unit you can do that. So with that specific training that I took, I had training on how to profile child sex offenders. So those would be considered pedophiles, also child sex offenders that aren't necessarily pedophiles. I won't get into the details of that, but some people offend not because they have the attraction, they offend just because they're vulnerable. They don't have limits as to who their victims are, just anyone who's vulnerable that they can overpower. So, but yeah, so I'm going to call them child sex offenders because they're who are a risk for children. So, and that term seems to be taken much better with algorithms than pedophile. So yeah, so I had specific training with that. Unfortunately, I had a medical condition that confined me to a wheelchair. I just started fainting all the time. So it took away my career as a police officer. I'm cured now, but at the time we couldn't really figure it out. And that's going to lead me into what I do now. So not a police officer anymore. During COVID, and I'm not going to go into the COVID discussion because it's a very divisive discussion, but I will get into how our group was formed and how we came to fighting for parental rights. So during COVID, my daughter did not handle it very well, what was happening in the school. She was diagnosed with OCD and anxiety before COVID. So you can just imagine what environment did for her. By the end of the school year, the first COVID school year, at 11 years old, she was deemed medium to high risk for suicide. And as a parent, getting that assessment or that call and being asked, do you have guns in the house? Are you going to consider locking the knives and stuff? It's a surreal discussion that you start reevaluating. Okay, what are you fighting for? What are you going to do to protect your child? How are you going to make your child's environment better? So that summer, she seemed to get better. And then it appeared that they weren't going to be bringing anything back into the school when it comes to COVID mandates. And the week before school started, there was whispers of everything coming back. And a lady on the town page where I live posted when's the next school board meeting. And at this point, my husband's a doctor. And we all know anyone who speaks against the narrative, especially in the medical field, gets right away targeted. But we had decided this was it. Our daughter was worth the risk of us losing everything. So yeah, we decided we're going to do a presentation in front of the school board. So I reached out to this mom. I said, hey, my husband's willing to speak out. Do you want to come meet at our house? We have a pretty big house. I figure we could fit like 20 people if that many would be willing to come in. We live on a farm, so it's kind of isolated. Giving directions to our place is a little bit different. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start a Facebook group. I'll put directions to my house in there. Any parents who reach out to you, just add them into the group. And in 24 hours, that Facebook group grew to 850 parents in our school division alone.
Wow.
And then from there, it grew by Saturday. So I erased my address. We ended up renting a hall. So this was Wednesday. Saturday was the town hall meeting. By then we had grown to 2,500 within our school division, and about 250 parents showed up. And then we created a board out of that. We were it was so important that we become credible very fast because we didn't want to be accused of taking money for the hall and things like that. So we created a nonprofit organization, which was actually called Grassroots Concerned Parents at the time. And then we did a presentation in front of the school board. We were very specific about the messaging. We recognize, even though we have big feelings and big issue, it needs to be received in order to be able to influence change. So we didn't focus on COVID, we focused on the effects these mandates were having on kids. Anyways, it was shared even by elected official, our presentation. It was very well received by the board. And we had prepared these binders and got parents and children to write letters to the board. We had about 150 letters. So we had very active participants as well. And we presented that binder to the board so they could see really how it was affecting the kids. It spurred survey with the kids as well. We said, you're not getting a grasp of how it's affecting them. One of the demands we wanted, it was to actually survey the children, which they did, which some of the stats were phenomenal that came out of that. One of them was that only 10% of the children in school had an adult in the school that they trust. So that was a really low level. So it kind of spurred some actions at the school board level. From there, we kind of became the hub. Anyone who were against some of the stuff that was happening in the schools. Provincially, the vaccine mandate was starting to come about. So we became the hub for all the doctors and nurses. And then kind of everyone came to us to say, what can we do? So we ended up creating groups within professions to kind of give them a voice together. And I'm telling you this because this can be applied in your province as well, if you're watching, on how to bring people together. So we weren't the answer to everyone, but we empowered people to become the answers to their own problems. So we gave them a place to kind of come together. To come together within their group. So we had one for teachers. So we have 450 teachers in a group within our organization. And we had some for doctors, some for firefighters, police officers, every profession. We created a group. We had 40 different groups, and we just started kind of anyone who reached out to us, putting them in there.
Wow.
And then with that, COVID kind of came and gone, although we're still feeling effects of what happened. We then were kind of seen as the organization not afraid to go against the grain, not afraid to talk about the hard issues that everyone's afraid to talk about. So it was just natural when COVID came, we started realizing, hey, a lot of stuff is kind of infiltrated into schools like overnight.
Yeah.
Where is this coming from? So we started doing some digging, and then we started raising awareness to what was happening in Saskatchewan in our schools. So a lot of that is just going on your school board's website and searching gender, and then you'll see what their policy is on that. And we were very much involved in bringing light. And I always thought, and I'm going to tell you this because a lot of people watching will probably think that, oh, I don't need to do that because someone's obviously doing that research. Someone's obviously looking into these things. But the fact of the matter is, not very many people do. How many people have read the Education Act in your province and gone through it and saw what parental authority is, what school board authority is, things like that? So we actually went digging, dumbed it down at a level that anyone can understand. And then we did campaigns. And so if you follow Unified Grassroots, what we've done, we really worked on swaying public opinion to start demanding changes. So, and educating the public on where this was coming in. So a lot of people are really uninformed. They know it's in the school, but they don't know how it got there. So it's really hard to figure out where to focus your activism or your efforts when you don't even know where it came from. So that's part of what we did as an organization. So we educated. So for example, the gender pronouns policies. A lot of people think, oh, that was coming in at the provincial level. No, it wasn't. It wasn't even at the school board level. So you had activist special interest group, activist groups approach school staff, approach unions, approach school boards, do presentation in front of the school board. But the biggest place, they really focus on school administration. So I'll kind of give you a small glimpse. You have school boards. Actually, I'll share my screen here because
Yeah,
I think
please.
it's important for people to understand this.
I'll give you the floor here, Nadine,
Here.
and let you go through your presentation.
Let me do it this way. Here. Does that work?
Perfect.
Do they still see me, or they just see the screen?
I see you. I see.
Okay.
I believe I see you as everybody else sees you.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this
So
is
just
great.
you see the screen too.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk about Saskatchewan, but each province will have the similar structure. So in Saskatchewan, you have 27 school board. You have their boss, I guess, is the provincial government, which is the Ministry of Education, the Saskatchewan Education Act. And they also report sort of to the School Board Association. So we call them the SSBA in Saskatchewan, which basically it's who ensures the school boards, and it's also who trains the school board as to what their authority is, how to conduct school board meetings, all of that. If they have issues or they're unsure about things, they go to the SSBA. And then under the school board, you'll have the school administration, which would be, there'd be called like the school division. So you'd have the director of education, HR, kind of everyone who kind of runs all the schools, but it's the administration level. And then under that, you'll have school staff union, kind of at the same level. School staff very much influenced by unions as well. And underneath that, you would have school community council. So basically each schools in your area usually has a board. Usually school community council do fundraising for like the parks or little events that the school have. So they don't usually have like a super huge voice, but in Saskatchewan right now, they do have a bigger voice because in the new legislation, the school community council is where the government's going to get a voice of the parents. So we're really encourage people to join there. So I'm giving you this structure so you understand a little bit where special interest groups have influence. So they very much focus their activists to join the school community council. They do a lot of presentation with the school staff unions. They'll offer free resources, free training. Basically, they'll really support school staff with materials and stuff. They'll also do presentation in front of the school administration, presentation in front of the school boards, and they also influence the school board association, basically their boss. They can influence as well the provincial government. You'll see that a lot. They run attack ads when the provincial government starts doing good work, in my opinion. But they have a lot of influence versus we who don't necessarily agree with the gender ideology or the critical race theory, basically the woke ideology, we don't have access to as much as they do. So we have access to determine who the next provincial government's going to be. We can elect new school board trustees. We can really get involved there and at the school community council. Now, I'm using terms like woke ideology, left, right. Again, some people will fall in the left and right situation where they might still be against the school. So please, I'm just generalizing it. So please don't get offended by that. It's just easier than to go into every specific scenario. So one of the things that we've noticed is a lot of the stuff that was coming in was at the school administration and school staff level. So, and they were working in partnership with the school board association to take some of the authority away from the school boards. I'll give you a perfect example of that. In the Saskatchewan Education Act, it says that school boards, trustees get to choose which books get implemented in the library. It's actually in the Saskatchewan Education Act. They're supposed to go through the list of books and approve which ones get added into the school. Now, a lot of books are being pressured to get put into the schools. They come in at the school administration level. They will work directly with school librarians and as well with the SSBA, so the School Board Association, to try to get these books in. And you can do activism, you can do presentation in front of the school board and say, you don't want this. And they'll say, well, this is out of our wheelhouse. We don't have the authority to do that. And we're reminding them actually what it says in the Saskatchewan Education Act. However, all confused, they go back to the SSBA and say, it says we can approve and deny, but then the SSBA say, no, that's a school administration matter. We noticed a lot with COVID as well. This is out of our hands. This is an administration matter. So part of it, what we're doing at the time is trying to educate the school board as to what their authority are, kind of holding them accountable to that and getting them to make decision. We were a bit effective in ours in recognizing them recognizing that during COVID. So we're just trying to influence that even more. Now I'm telling you about the structure so that you know where to focus on, but I'm going to go back a little bit on building an entity that can combat and focus on that in a similar fashion that Unified Grassroots has. So right now, our group we probably have about 80,000 members and followers, and most of those are in the province of Saskatchewan. Like I said, we started within professional groups, but we grew our influence a little bit more in the sense that we have a very big media presence, not as in mainstream media. We've created our own media presence. We've tackled a lot of the issues. We've broke a lot of stories. But because of that, we kind of grew really big. So when we do a campaign, we're very very effective. We also are very strategic in what we do. And if some groups could really maybe even try following us to see what we're doing, because it's been, and I'm not trying to say that to brag. I'm just saying that because we've been very strategic in our approach. So swaying public opinion is the biggest thing. You want to sway the provincial government, you need to get public opinion on your side and demanding change. So we did that a lot with the campaigns we did. If you haven't watched our video exposing Planned Parenthood and third-party organization, actually, I'm going to add it in the chat. I'm going to unshare this screen here for a minute, and I'm going to add that video in the chat. Now, don't go and watch it right now, but watch it later on. So we did this video basically that exposed a lot of the sexualization of children that was happening in the school. And I brought in my background experience and professional knowledge. Oh, perfect. She added it too, into this video. So it's not insinuation. This is what I was trained on when I was trained to profile sex offenders. I was trained on where does the pedophile activism come in and what will it look like. So anyways, we exposed that. A week later, all of these third-party organizations were banned from Saskatchewan schools. So, sorry, I shared it, I guess, to just the panelists. Someone else share it if you can, so I can keep focusing. I'm trying to keep this short.
We'll make sure we get
But
on
anyway,
that for you.
You'll okay, perfect. Because yeah, it just made me share it to host and panelists. So you and I share it, Shannon. So, but basically a week later, they were all banned from schools. And I don't know if you've been following, we had an incident in Lumsden, Saskatchewan, which I allude to a little bit, but there was more than that incident. Because we're the hub of what you can't talk about, we were hearing about all these different stories that was happening in Saskatchewan. So when the news broke that they were banning them, we also created support for the elected officials when they're doing the right thing. So we tend to want to complain a lot, especially when they don't do everything we want them to do. But we ended up really creating a public support. So they came out with the new change. We showed them, the public, why it was necessary. So we started releasing stories after stories of things that was happening in the schools all throughout Saskatchewan. And then it created an environment where the more they attacked Premier Mo, the more people started defending him. So when I say activism it's more than just screaming what you're angry about. It's being very strategic in your approach, very much engaging your elected officials, and not engaging them as in sending a mean email. Build relationship with them. And that's what we foster a lot with our organization. Join boards for your like I believe in Ontario you guys have MPPs. How many of you watching are actually on your MPP's board? So you want to influence your elected officials, get close to them, build relationship with them, help support them when they're going in the right direction. So again, I'm telling you how we grew. If you can recreate that in Ontario or Manitoba or BC, whoever's watching, I highly recommend you do, because once you have a big force of people coming together, it becomes very influential in the sense it's hard to ignore. When you have like 80,000 member out of a province of 1.2 million, that's a big chunk of people to activate. And elected officials know that a lot of people feel a certain way. So I would say try to create communities and look, we have groups all over Ontario, all over New Brunswick, and sometimes the hard part is getting them to come together for a specific cause. So what I would say is create an entity that have the common goal, and then kind of unite all of these groups together. Now, another thing you're going to see, we happen on the right to have a lot of infighting in almost everything. We've seen it with the Million Person March. We've seen it with pretty much every movement that has come from the right. And it's because we believe in individualism over collectivism. So, and it's our downfall. But if you can create something that has like a common goal, common mission, common vision that people can get behind, usually it'll be a lot easier. And if there is attacks from certain people that might not want to join, just don't feed into that. Don't feed into the division. Just keep doing your purpose. And your mission, and eventually your success will speak for itself. Like I've had my fair share of attacks, name calling, people trying to to undermine what we're doing. We just never feed into it. We never pay attention to it. We just keep focusing on what we're focusing on. And we've learned that it's become very effective over time. So I'm just gonna see if I'm missing anything. Again, what we're facing is not just little. The people, the special interest groups that are pushing this ideology are very effective, very organized, and they have a lot of money backing them. So because they have not only government funded money, because they get a lot of grants from the government, they also have the backing of most of the union. It's not a secret that the union's very left leaning, pushing this kind of stuff. And they have access to a lot. And they really, really activate, especially when you have people like us starting to speak up, starting to gain influence. They really, really activate to try to silence, cancel, discredit anyone who speaks up. And I'm sure, Shannon, you face some of that, and a lot of our listeners and viewers probably as well. You just got to keep going. And like, if you look this week, there was a smear attempt on our organization. Again, they got wind of these town halls that we're doing to try to encourage people to get involved. Don't feed into it. Don't silence yourself. Just keep going. Just consider, sorry, I have fruit flies in my house. Just keep going, because every time they talk about you, other people will hear about what you're doing and they'll join your organization. Don't even fight back. Don't even clap back. If they're lying about you, I would say, yes, put the truth out there, but at the same time, just keep going. Now, I'm going to tell you my last thing that we've been focusing on. Now that we know where the head of the snake is, we know where our energy needs to be spent. So our organization has been really involved at educating the public on democratic processes within our province. But this, what I'm going to talk to you about, will apply to Ontario, will apply to New Brunswick, will apply to BC. So, like I mentioned earlier, all of your elected officials have boards. So federally, it's called electoral district boards. So your MP has a board, have about 30 members. Some of you might be on there. If you're not, I would start looking towards potentially joining that board. They meet every 6 weeks to 2 months, and that's an opportunity for you to sit with your MP and have discussions on your concern. You can also put policy forward to go to national to be approved in what would be the convention. So it becomes a priority policy for the party. And you can go with any party. Maybe in your area, it'll be the Liberal Party. Join the Liberal Party if that's where you can get the most influence. So our organization is nonpartisan. However, we do have a set of values that we stand by. It's a little bit harder to join the NDP when our values goes completely against it. But if that's your only option, I would say get on their board. Feed them the other side. Feed them maybe the questions that would make them wake up a little bit. Okay, maybe that's not better for them. So join EDA boards. For MPs or MPPs, in our province, it's MLA, Member of Legislative Assembly. MPP is Member of Parliamentary. I don't know. What does MPP stand for in Ontario?
Member of Provincial Parliament.
Provincial Parliament. Okay. So depending on your province, it'll be called something. They all have a constituency association. Join it. Get involved. Get on that board. So that's one of the things we teach. Now, the last thing I'm going to teach. The school board needs to take back their authority. Right now, it's being stolen from them by, again, board association, school administration. They are coming up against directors, superintendent that's telling them, this is not your authority, this is not your wheelhouse, stay out of our wheelhouse. That needs to change. So how you change that is you get a lot of people to run for school board who understands what their authority is based on the Education Act. So in Saskatchewan, we're hoping we have 27 school board, about 8 to 10 school board trustees per school board. So we're identifying the problematic woke activists in each school board and focusing really on replacing those. So we're hoping to run 100 school board trustees. And I say we are hoping to run. It's not going to be our organization that's going to do it. We are going to try to empower the regular everyday people to run. And then we're not sure what kind of support we're going to do. It might just be bringing in expertise to train them on how to campaign. It might be helping them with resources on how to get a political page started for their campaign. It might be connecting them with a business that will do lawn signs for free. So, or not free, for a low cost. Things like that. So our goal is 100 school board trustees. We have an election coming up in the fall. So we also are focusing on helping civic candidates. So a lot of this stuff, you're seeing it come at the city level as well. So we're encouraging people to run for city council, mayor, all of that. And then at the provincial level, we have a lot of positions up for grabs right now. So we had 19 position up for grabs with the current party in power. So Sass party is the current party in power. So, and we also encourage, I'm not saying who to vote for, but if you want to have the biggest influence, if you're focusing on the party that's currently in power or most likely to be in power in the next election, your sphere of influence increases way more. So we have some of our people, and like, it's not me again. We're just encouraging regular, everyday people with our values to step up to the plate and run. So we have some of our people that have actually run in the nomination race to be on the ballot for Sass party in the next election. So in Saskatchewan, we have 21 spots open out of 61 seats. So even if a few, maybe 5, 6, 7 of our candidates get in, that becomes a very influential voice in the legislature to bring, again, it doesn't take a lot of work. Nomination election. And I'm going to give you guys this example just so you grasp how easy it is and how little time it would take to activate the grassroots. At the federal level, in nomination, okay, I'm going to back up. Some of you might not know this. Some of you think that the party just chooses the candidate to be on the ballot, but that's not actually the case. Normally, when a spot is opening up, you have 1, 2, 3 people run for the nomination. So they basically have an internal election within the party to decide who the next candidate's going to be on the ballot at the election. So this is federal, provincial. You're seeing some of them happening right now with the Conservative Party. You're seeing them happening right now with Saskatchewan. And I'm going to compare it to the US because that'll give us a glimpse of where we fail. These nomination election that are happening all over Canada are called primaries in the US. In the US, primaries election, 40% of the population vote in those. In Canada, less than 1%. Sometimes less than 0.1% people show up to vote. So sometimes in your riding, about 100 to 200 people decide who's going to be the next MP or MLA. So if you can really organize the grassroots people, sometimes you might only need 100 people to show up at this election, and that will determine who the next candidate elected official is going to be. And I'm telling you this because we always complain that it's like an old boys club, and I'm not saying this in a gender sense. It's just that term, it's old boys club. It's whoever knows the person, that's who gets elected. It's kind of always friends of the current candidate. It's always like really tight-knit community. Well, because they're the ones who know when to show up. So we're trying to kind of empower, people to show up at these elections, and it's been extremely effective in Saskatchewan. So that we call it democratic education. So you want to influence change, activate people to show up at those elections, activate people to run for school board trustee, and activate a team to help them. So a lot of people don't even know what it entails to run for school board. How much work is it? Does it pay? So we actually educate people, like, just so you know, there is a pay for running for school board. In Saskatchewan, I think it's close to like 1,900 a month. And you have maybe one meeting a month, but you have other work that you do. So things like that, some people might have thought is completely voluntary. So there's actually a paid position. You get paid for your miles. You get paid if you go for training. So if it's going to take away time from your other job, you'll know you get compensation. So those are the types of things that we talk about. How do you apply for the position? We show them where to get the forms, what the forms look like. Sometimes they always need someone to nominate them. So they need 10 signatures, I believe. I might be wrong on that data. So Election Saskatchewan, please don't come after me. I don't have it in front of me, but some of our team, once somebody says, I'm interested, all that information will go towards them to empower them and to take that kind of fear away. A lot of people are intimidated because they just don't know the process. So we're hoping to do that, take that fear away, empower them to run. So that's at the school board level. Now, why will this be very effective? We believe it will because we are going to provide the training to those trustees as to what their authority is. So when they go back to those board meetings and someone from the school administration says, this is an administrative matter, it's out of your wheelhouse, they're going to be, no, actually it is within our wheelhouse. Hear what it says in the Saskatchewan Education Act. So we're going to empower them to run. We're going to educate them as to what their authority is. And hopefully when we get majority school board trustees, we're also going to influence the school board association. Like I showed you guys, the ensuring body of the school board, hopefully so that they get elected by the trustees. So if we can get more people to become trustees, then we can also help change the school board association to be more representative of the people. Now, some people would say, well, you're just doing what the left has been doing and trying to influence that way. See, the reason we're in this mess is because we didn't step up to the plate on our side. The left has been doing this for a really long time, and they've taken over all of these boards, all of these entities, and now we have a big structure that does not represent the people. We need to change that. So I'm not saying take every position. We do need people from both sides so we don't get stuck in our own bias and go to the extreme from the other side. We need to make sure the pendulum doesn't swing too far either. But what we're saying is it should be a reflection of the general public. And it hasn't been, because unfortunately our side hasn't been informed or involved. And I'm not saying that to point the finger and say, it's your fault, but at the same time it's my fault too. I didn't know this stuff. I wasn't involved. I didn't show up when I should have showed up. So that's where I think we can talk about the problems for hours and hours, and I'm sure that most of the panelists, that they want to inform you as to the issues, and we need that too because we need the general public woken up. But my presentation is more, okay, now that you're aware, where can you influence change? And I'm hoping that I made that a little bit clearer. And again, I'm going to give just a couple more little tips. Is the cause should be more important than one individual. So there will be a lot of infighting, but just go back to the cause and what you want to accomplish. Don't feed into the infighting. Just remind, what are we doing this for? And you'll see it'll naturally grow and it'll naturally progress to change happening. When you don't even feed into the infighting, like I don't know what the mapping or how it is in other provinces. I just know in Saskatchewan that happens a lot. We even though we've grown and we're province wide, I'm not going to say there hasn't been attacks. You just don't feed into it. These fruit flies are really, really annoying.
We can't see them. It's okay.
Okay, well, they keep flying into my face. So, but with that being said, stick to the cause. And everyone's going to have their own ideas as to what's going to be more effective. Celebrate all of them. Each way of trying to influence for positive change is great. Each type of influence, if you want to protest every school board meeting outside, if that's your thing, if that's where you think you're going to influence change, go ahead. Don't put people like that down. Just celebrate that people are trying to influence change. So, and recognize that each group have their own purpose, and just keep pushing along with what you guys are wanting to try to do. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not saying that anyone who's doing anything different than our organization is wrong. I do think there's a benefit to influencing or trying to influence at all levels. So, but yeah, I hope I gave enough information. If there's any questions, Shannon, or if anyone has question, I'm willing to open them. There's nothing that's off anything. I'm
Yeah,
an open
just a
book.
reminder, everybody, at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button, and you're welcome to drop some questions in there. I'm watching the chat. It's been more active than it has been all day, Nadine. You know, like, this is really inspiring to all of us. If I'm going to speak for our guests here today and the people watching this is really important. You've done something I think is unique as far as I can tell in Canada in terms of the organizational scale that you've been able to you know, activate. And we're talking in Ontario and BC and elsewhere. We've got a couple of years to build up for our school board elections. We're thinking about mobilizing these things now, and I'm thankful we're going to put this on our YouTube channel. I'm going to watch it again a few times because
Sure.
you've laid out a good roadmap here for getting involved, affecting change, connecting those different groups and creating the opportunities for people. Yeah,
And I just want to say too, like, we're not the answer to everything, but if you can empower each group within their community to have better messaging, to have greater reach, to have more influence, and by showing what has worked, then we could technically do everything for everyone, but we realize that principle, give man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. We really live by that principle of just empowering people. But if you guys want help too, like, we have no qualms, like, especially after this next election, we're going to have a lot of free time. So we're willing to maybe even help with the structure, anyone who's trying to build in other provinces. But like, just to give you an idea, I just went to San Francisco last week, and it was to learn about the possibility of what AI can bring into activism. And it was a conservative conference. And I know I'm going to say AI, everyone's going to be like, oh no, the Antichrist. And because I used to think that until I realized it's just a massive data processing computer. It doesn't actually create intelligent. You just have to train it for what you want. But even just like right now, we have a system that's being built on where if we want to help people run campaigns and help with their messaging, right now we have it where we can get them to fill out a questionnaire and they give it back to us, and we give them an entire campaign based on their values, based on their type of writing, emails to send out, fundraising to send out, posters ideas, slogan ideas. Like, I don't think people realize we're going to be facing an entire new world in the next few years. And yeah, someone said AI isn't able to generate relevance and meaning. Actually, I would disagree with that in a sense, because I've had it actually do exactly that. You just have to prompt it the proper way. It can go back and search so many things, but yeah. So I'm not saying don't that everything about AI is wonderful. I have my concerns about a lot of things about it. There will be issues that will come up, I know for sure, but we're hoping to incorporate that too, just to help with the minute stuff that takes so much time, so that we can focus more one-on-one personal human interaction, so we're not wasting time on some of the smaller stuff. But yeah, so we're willing to help too. We're going to be focusing on Saskatchewan, potentially New Brunswick too. There's been talks of helping there as well. So I'm originally from New Brunswick, so that's kind of a bonus and a benefit. And I do speak French from New Brunswick too. So, but yeah.
There's two things I have, Nadine, before we segue into our grassroots panel. First has to do with New Brunswick. Did you catch Brent Ingersoll's open letter to Premier Higgs from Thursday?
No.
So he's a pastor in New Brunswick, and you alluded earlier to the events that have happened there in the last couple of days. Well, Pastor Ingersoll put up this open letter. It was posted on Facebook, and when I checked, he has like in 48 hours 1,300 shares
wow.
of this letter, and it was part of what I think triggered the awareness with Premier Higgs. His name again is Brent Ingersoll. Soll is the name, spelling of his last name, and I guess it's his page for his church, and a very, very well written letter. And it strikes me that a flashpoint like that he's been able to generate. And I spoke with an advisor to Blaine Higgs last night briefly. We're back and forth by text, and we're going to connect either later today or tomorrow. But he's kind of got a flashpoint there and an opportunity to reach people, on a hot topic. And the advisor to Higgs said that this is all over New Brunswick. People are just outraged about what happened. For those of you who don't know, there was an outside organization that came into the school called something about the thirst for the questions or something, a thirst for the talk. So they were an outside influencer. The initial reports were that they were in giving so-called mandatory presentations from grade 6 to grade 12 in at least 4 different schools. And when you go to their website, I mean, the front page of the website is, there's sort of a rolling graphic, and one of them is there's a flash of bondage gear, and like this is completely outside of the curriculum on sex education and health. And this is what led Premier Higgs to say this organization's never getting into a New Brunswick school again. Second thing, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually tried to do some digging into that organization to see if it was linked to the ones that I exposed, to see if the same key players are involved. They are very Loctite. There is not much information as to who they are. And I'm curious as to how they even got access into the schools, considering how little footprint that they have. But it wouldn't shock me if it was the same key players. It's the same type of education. It's the same type of perversion trying to come into the school that we exposed. But yeah, I have to say though, I was impressed with Premier Higgs on how he approached this subject and how real and authentic he was. Like when he said, I'm furious, to say the least. And finally, you have elected officials that are calling it out for what it is. And he's saying, let me know what you think. He's trying to engage the parents, the people right on the ground that are outraged over this. And I think it's political genius, political strategy. And so I will give him that. He's really jumping on this. And hopefully, if you guys are listening, go and support those efforts. If there's people saying, oh no, they should have access, they shouldn't ban third-party organization from school, post the video I made. You can't watch that video and not see the problem. And it's not insinuation. Again, it comes from my professional training as to why we don't want these things in schools. So, and it's not attacking, it comes from a compassionate side too. Like, I know what it's like to be sexualized as an early age. I know what kind of damage it does. I've lived it. And so yeah, support them when they go in the right direction. They're going to get attacked by media. If they get attacked by media, go in the comments. Like hundreds of people going in the comments, defending them and supporting them will make media realize, okay, we don't have the public on this. It'll counter that brainwashing that they're trying to do on the entire public. We did that during COVID. Like we did that with the parental rights legislation. We have a lot of members. We said, go support the good change. Go in the comments, because you'd be surprised how many people will read an article and then will read the comments to try to decide what position they're going to take on this. So if you have hundreds of people who are willing to back them up, activate them. And that will have way more influence than you showing up at a school board meeting outside protesting with your sign. You could
Indeed.
have more effective change by doing 10 comments a day on news article attacking the government when they do the right thing. So, but yeah, sorry, I cut you off because I just want people to be equipped with how to influence that change more. Sorry.
Fantastic. Well, the second piece I wanted to touch on was the AI piece, and this might be useful for you, Nadine. I don't know if we talked about it when you were in Ottawa. I have spent the last year using a large language model, an AI that was specifically designed to analyze public opinion for elections. And I have the ability to drill down into areas of Canada, either provincially. I can drill into the GTA, for example. It has more robust tools where we can go basically riding by riding during an election period. And we can also do something called message testing. So message testing is, how does the public feel about this idea? And the AI will go out and scrape social media, sometimes millions of posts, and say, this is how people are reacting to that. And it can help to craft the message that is most effective. We found that when we were using this tool, that parents' rights, as a phrase, a year ago this time, we really ramped up with the parents' rights stuff middle of last summer, as we were approaching for the September 20th. The parents' rights was actually for a while captured by the left as a dirty phrase. And they missed the boat on that because they didn't know. And they've actually backed away from parents' rights, say we don't want to touch parents' rights anymore because they perceived it as being much more in our favor. And now that they've walked away from it, it is. So this is a very interesting tool. I'm happy to talk to you about it a bit more at some point and share some of that stuff, and show you what queries look like and things like that. So sure. I brought our duty up. I'm going to bring up our grassroots panel. And Nadine, where do people? We posted a link in the chat. Where a couple of quick places. I saw your Twitter profile or handle come up. People have been sharing that to let other people know. But for people watching after the fact, how do we find you?
Yeah, so if you'll find me on all social media platform, me personally, Nadine G Ness. So Nadine G is in golf, Ness, Ness. So on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, although I haven't quite mastered Instagram yet. So it's for the younger generation. I think I'm getting there. But anyways, that's for me personally. Our organization, Unified Grassroots, has a website, www.unifiedgrassroots.com. Be patient with us. We just launched our website yesterday. We're still having kinks. So if some of you were on our old website and you try to go on, it's going to say you can't get through. So you just got to delete your browser history and you'll get through. So unifiedgrassroots.com. We're also on Facebook, Unified Grassroots. So if you search Unified Grassroots, we have a private group and a public page. We post on both. The private and public page. We just can't switch the private to public. It was when I started it, I thought I was sharing my address kind of type thing. So, but anyway, so you can find us there. And I'm just gonna ask if it's okay if you give me 30 seconds. I saw one question that was really important by someone in the chat. If you're okay if I ask it. He or I answer it. He asked, would you start a party where all your candidates can be identified with your organization. And we are not going to do that because we've seen what media has done in the past. They will look for the candidate that's the more extreme and crazy, and they will paint all of them that way, and they will target it and use that as a counter campaign. We're not going to control our people. We're not going to say this is your set what you can do. We're just empowering the people. So some people may agree or disagree. We just know what the media does, and they are a very big machine. So we're hoping our candidates will just run because they will be and will win because they'll be equipped with how to campaign properly and how to put out the message that they want to put out. So I hope it's okay if I just answered that question, because I think it'll be way more effective in the long run. Just support them in running really good campaigns that can win. And then you just help support them once they're in there. So it gives them, it takes away a target. They don't have a target to hit if we do it that way. Yeah.
Great advice.
I hope that's good. Okay. Thank you.
Jam-packed, Nadine. Thank you so much. I'm going to be in Saskatchewan in 3.5 weeks.
Oh, get a hold of me. Well, you have my cell.
Yeah, we'll reach out.
We'll meet up.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
I look forward to it.
Okay. I'll let you go.
Take
See ya.
care.
Goodbye.